Ladies and gents, boys and girls, welcome. Friday, October the 20th, 2023. TGIF. Hope you are all doing well. Chris Phillips here, your host of the Daily Crow of the Spurs Up Show. I see Hunter Kelly, Peyton Smith, John Edward, Todd Smith as well. What's going on? Also, those in the Big Cock Club Discord, head over to the TDC Questions channel, the TDC Questions channel. To be sure, your questions are answered there, guys. We have got a jam-packed show for you. Lots to get into here on this Friday, game day eve, as South Carolina prepares tomorrow to take on the Missouri Tigers in Como, the battle for the Mayor's Cup. Carolina looking to snap their 4-game losing streak to Mizzou. So, a big one tomorrow in Como, SEC East showdown. And guys, South Carolina and Shane Beamer looking to do something they haven't done a whole lot of, which is, believe it or not, beat SEC East competition. South Carolina thus far in the Shane Beamer era, 3-10 against teams from the SEC East, not named Vanderbilt. So this will be a big one. Obviously, guys, kicking off the second half of the 2023 season, and it'll be a big one, 3:30 SEC Network, how you can watch it. Again, guys, we have got a jam-packed show for you. Lots to get into. Our good friend Jake Crain of Crain and Company is going to kick us off here on today's show. We're also taking your questions, comments, and calls, guys. That is the basis of our Friday show, the daily mailbag or the Friday mailbag, Friday Q&A, whatever you want to call it. We are taking your questions, your comments. We'll take voicemails as well, guys. Do not forget tomorrow, we have the post-game call-in show, A1 Air Quality Consultants post-game call-in show taking place. It's going to be a lot of fun after the game against Missouri. I'd say around 7 o'clock or so, right? We're also about a week away from the watch party down in Hilton Head, Carolina Cigars. All my low country Gamecocks would love to see you all down there. Going to be one heck of a time. Also, TDC will be live from Hilton Head Island. I'm not exactly sure if it's going to be from the Cigar Lounge or where we're staying, what have you, but I'm actually getting into town late Wednesday. We'll be there Thursday, Friday, playing a little bit of a golf with the Carolina Cigar guys as well. So it's going to be a really, really good time, guys. Looking forward to it. Always a lot of fun when we go down there and smoke them if you got them. And hopefully that Saturday we're smoking the Texas A&M pack, hopefully, fingers crossed. Either way, guys, like I mentioned, we're also talking PrizePicks plays the weekend. We've got your questions, everything in between. Also, really quickly, a side note, want to announce this, address this, promoted this on social media a bit ago, but proud to announce that we will be speaking at the 2023 Growth Summit in Columbia, South Carolina, at the Columbia Museum of Art on November the 2nd. So, it's an entrepreneurial event, the largest gathering of entrepreneurs in the state of South Carolina. You can buy tickets to the event. It's a 2-day event. I will be speaking on Thursday at 10 a.m. So, going to be a really good time, guys. Looking forward to it and grateful for the opportunity to share the TSUS story and also my story as an entrepreneur as well. Like I mentioned, guys, kicking off the show, and you can get used to this, by the way, guys. We'll have our guests, our daily guests, kick off the show versus join us at 1:15. I think it just makes the show flow better. We get right into the conversation. So that's what we're going to do here on today's show. And let's see. I think he is ready in the background. Yes. So he joins us every single Friday, guys. Very excited to talk all things SEC, college football, everything in between. He does a great job with Crain and Company, our good friend Jake Crain. He joins us once again. Jake, what's going on, my man? I appreciate you taking the time.
Oh, man, it's another great weekend of football coming. Excited to join you on a Friday. I want to tell everybody out there, you want to know how you've made it, right? You want to know a sign that you've made it? When you're giving speeches at the Museum of Art, that's when you know. I don't know if there is a more – congratulations, by the way. But I don't know if there is a more, hey, guess what, you made it, then you're over there talking about success while, like, there's a Monet in the background or, like, some panther that was made of, like, half-cut Pepsi cans by, like, Picasso's cousin or something.
Yeah, we'll have to document the fine pieces of art that we see in Columbia. I'm sure it'll be a
Like
good
here
time.
is
I've
Chris
never
Phillips.
I've never been to the Museum of Art, so
Me
I'm
either.
curious to see what I'm curious to see
I hope
what's
everything doesn't wake up at midnight.
yeah, seriously, seriously. Jake, again, it's great to have you, my friend. Always a pleasure to chat with you. Let's get right into it. Let me first ask you this, because obviously you're a big time gambler. You give picks, I feel like, on the daily, and you do really good at it. Because when you talk about the South Carolina Florida game, did you notice? I'm not sure if you paid close enough attention to it, because obviously you're surveying the entire college football landscape. But I think it's really interesting when lines immediately open on Sundays and then right before kickoff, the line movements. I feel like that's what comes in from the sharps, right? The public puts their
Yep.
bets in during the week, what have you. But the sharps, they get it in either right when it opens or right before kick. And I say that because, you saw the line in that game go from literally South Carolina as a 2 or 2.5 point favorite to at kickoff, Jake, Florida was favored
Mhm.
by a point in that game. Either way, I digress. South Carolina, Florida, a thrilling game. If you take the fandom out of it, a great college football game. Obviously, Gamecocks fall in heartbreaking fashion, giving up a 10-point lead with 5 minutes to go. And we knew, Jake, in this game, for one side, it was going to be jubilation and hope and optimism for what their season could be. And on the other side, it was going to be heartbreak and despair. And that's exactly what we got, I think, when you look at the fan bases of Florida and South Carolina. First off, did you notice the gambling trends at all in that one? And then
Yeah.
what you saw from the game on Saturday?
Yeah, well, we obviously we bet on it every day, degenerate and all. But yeah, I mean, you see it. It's amazing how it gets molded right instantly. Like the line comes out, then all of a sudden the sharps hit it. Then throughout the week, the public gets on it. Where are you going with it? Sorry, I'm having some trouble with my hat here. I'm just gonna keep adjusting it. But that's just them kind of narrowing in the focus of it. I like to grab some of them early. I instantly make a parlay when the new lines come out before they kind of get bet down. It's always interesting to see where they start and then where they end. But listen, when it comes down to Vegas and these lines, it's incredible. They get, me and my brother think they have two, twins at the bottom of a casino in a pool with like avatar tails like hooked together that can see the future. But man, that game, it feels like one South Carolina had to have. Like if you wanted to be able to at least, finish out the year with a lot of momentum, get close to where you were last year. Now sitting at 2-5, I believe, with a tough trip to Missouri. Just seemed to me like you had two teams that, one, Florida on the road struggled a ton. Now, look, they caught some breaks. I mean, the tip pass, we can go through it. But there's multiple reasons South Carolina lost that game. And it seems like to this point, right, South Carolina kind of is who they've looked like most of the year. Spencer Rattler, I thought, played pretty well, gave him a chance. That there's just such a narrow path for South Carolina to win games. Spencer Rattler has to go off. They need to catch a few breaks on defense, catch a few breaks on special teams, or score some points. Just bad up front, man. I mean, Graham Mertz, not like they just ran it down y'all's throat. Y'all said we're going to try and take the run away, whether that means stacking the box or doing movements up front, and make Graham Mertz beat us. And Graham Mertz beat you. It's one of those things, man. I think Graham Mertz has been one of the biggest surprises in the country when it comes down to the quarterback position. But you feel like South Carolina, their level of talent and Florida's level of talent is a lot closer than some of these other games they're about to play. And it was at home. So, man, tough loss. And I'm not going to come on here and be like, I said 5-7. Y'all want to burn my house down again this year, right? Look outside, South Carolina fans. There's pitchforks and torches and screams and negative things. But I'm telling you, man, and I hate it. I don't dislike South Carolina, but it seems like they kind of are who a lot of us thought they'd be.
Jake, the secondary play is stunning to me. Of all the things that's gone wrong with Carolina, I was right there with you in the sense that I didn't pick 5-7, obviously, but I thought 6-6 very well could happen. I thought 6-6 was more likely than 8-4, to be totally transparent with you, and it's why I labeled 8-4 as the best case scenario for South Carolina. I think a lot of folks were not too thrilled with that. There were a lot of Gamecock fans out there picking a 9-3 season or what have you, but of all the things that have happened with this football team, of how it's unfolded, the level Spencer Rattler's played at, I'm surprised it's quite as high as it is, but we knew he was capable. This secondary at the midway point of the season, ranking dead last in yards per game allowed, I would have never guessed that. I would have just
Look,
never guessed that.
look, playing bad's contagious, man. Like, I don't think a lot of people realize that. Like, you're like, man, how does this team, like, on one hand, you're like, how does this team keep punching above their weight? Well, playing good's contagious. If you play good long enough as a position group, that starts rubbing off on other people. Or you start kind of not catching breaks, but earning those breaks. Playing bad's the same way. Like, man, we can't stop the run. We can't rush the passer. But if we can't stop the run or rush the passer, I mean, what's the whole point of defending these guys for 7 seconds? And all of a sudden, and you typically see it with teams that have really bad offenses but good defenses. Like, the defense breaks down throughout the year because at some point that reality sets in of, we can go out here and play great and the offense still sucks. Like, at the beginning of the year, you're like, you know what? We'll be a defensive team. We'll win 6-3. We'll win every game 9-3. And you go out there and you're losing games, 10-7, and like 13-10, where you're playing good. It's just gravity. So, not that to make an excuse, the DBs are playing bad because everybody else is playing bad, but playing bad is contagious.
And I think too, we put all the blame on the secondary, but Jake, it really does. It goes back to the conversation of winning in the trenches. I mean, I think one of the reasons South Carolina can't stop anybody through the air is they can't get a pass rush. And I mean, I don't care if it's Graham Mertz or who it is. You give anybody 4 to 5 seconds to throw the football, and bad things are going to happen.
Doesn't matter.
It's just like,
At this level,
there's no
DB.
There's no DB that can hold up with that much time to throw. The week that has been, Jake, normally we're not worrying about kind of what's happened on Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday, but like, this has been a week from hell for Gamecock Nation. I don't think that's putting it, like, I don't think that's over exaggerating. The loss was demoralizing enough. Then you got another Shane Beamer presser going viral on Saturday after the game. Is he taking accountability? Is he blaming his players? Whatever. Then Tuesday, the broken foot thing. Then Wednesday, it's more broken foot stuff with we find out it's a Gatorade cooler. Like, have you ever seen a week like this for a college football team? I mean, it just feels like it's one thing after another, and it's this snowball effect of like, what's going to happen next? You know what I mean? Like, what piece of news is going to come out next? Your just overall thoughts on the week that has been. I know you put out a video, obviously, on the Beamer broken foot thing, and it's really wild. Like, you knew that was going to be a story, but that became like a national viral story. You know what I mean? So, what your thoughts on just like what's going on, some of the turmoil surrounding South Carolina football this week?
Well, again, when it rains, it pours. Kind of some of the point I just made. It seems that bad things typically go together. If you're on the other end of it, this is what I was talking about. And if South Carolina's sitting here at 5-2, and Shane Beamer breaks his foot at practice because he got mad, a bunch of people were like, "You see, that's why we win. The head coach cares that much. The attention to detail. He was so pissed they didn't have red Gatorade. He broke his foot kicking into practice. That's the difference. It's just you're a product of what's going on, right? It seems like they say sunlight's the best disinfectant. Well, when it's not going good, everything you say, which I don't think Shane should have said that after the game, right? I don't think you ever make it seem like, even if the players didn't run, I'm sure they didn't run what he wanted. It doesn't help you. That doesn't help the team. The buck always stops with you. I just think it's been a tough week, but what can turn it around? You go beat Missouri, then all of a sudden now everybody's happy again. It's just ways to get through the week where you're upset because the way the team's playing. All right, maybe the coach didn't say the perfect thing, so then you hang on to that to be able to release some anger from that. It's just how it is. You're a product of the times that you're in. But can I say something real quick, Chris? Can I say something? I'm looking here in the chat real quick. John Edward Kruger said, "Jake, I'm not going to come in and brag, but brags anyway." Bruin Nation said, "I knew it would be as soon as he said it." The year's not over yet. I have learned not to put anything past South Carolina figuring out at the end of the year. But I'm gonna tell you guys something. After the shit that y'all gave me last year about South Carolina when I picked them to go 6-6 or 5-7, and they didn't, and I had to listen for a whole offseason, buddy, if they go 5-7, I'm gonna come in here every single time and remind you about it because I had to live with it for a year. So don't get it twisted. If you're gonna dish it out, you best believe you're gonna take it when it's on the other end. But there's still a long way to go. So I'm not saying I was right, because knowing Shane Beamer in South Carolina, they'll go win out and then win a bowl game. So I'm just saying, just be easy with that. You playing both sides of it. You're the same one that got mad at me making a joke about Miami's the only team people are rooting for to take a knee on a football field for. How you got mad about that? I still got people talking about it.
And to your point, Jake, I don't know if you've seen, but I've gone on record, and I'm not expecting you, Jake, to understand or to back me up on this, because I know that you're locked in at Mizzou -6.5. Good bet. I'm picking South Carolina to win straight up.
Wouldn't shock me.
And a lot of it is for the reasons you just mentioned. And I even said this, right? Like, I'll tell any Mizzou person, like, listen, I can't give you a ton of football reasons why South Carolina is going to beat Missouri. I really can't. I just, like, I think Missouri, I don't think they're a product of some years past, right? They've played a soft schedule and we kind of like overhyped them. I think Mizzou is actually like, they're legit. Like, this is a really, really good Missouri football team. Drink's done a hell of a job. Brady Cook is for real. He's in his zone.
Yeah.
That 1-2 dynamic duo of Luther Burden and Theo Weiss Jr. is legitimate on the outside. Pete Schrader at running back. Like, you just keep going in that nasty defense they have, which I don't know if the D has been quite as good as I thought it'd be, but still, you look across the board, they've got studs everywhere. But it just seems like to me, I've just got this weird gut feeling. It's like when everything's going against South Carolina, all the turmoil, everything that's come out this week. And I know no matter how you feel about the broken foot thing, Jake, I come back to this. No matter how you feel, South Carolina's football team in the Shane Beamer era has found a way to rally around stuff like that. Right, wrong, or indifferent. They found a way. Now, does that mean they're going to win tomorrow? We'll see. I think South Carolina is very capable of losing this game by 3 scores. But I just have this funny feeling that when it seems so obvious the Gamecocks are for dead, and then I look at the spread. Jake, and I'm like, why is this game only at 6.5? I feel like this should so easily be a double-digit spread, and it's not. I could be dead wrong, and I fully have accepted that, but this just feels like one of those spots where Shane Beamer and the Gamecocks just do what feels like the unthinkable or unfathomable, and they rally the troops, circle the wagons, what have you, and get the job done.
Yeah, look, this is betting, and I took that in Missouri because I thought it was low. I don't think the over, honestly, would be a bad play in this game either. Missouri
I've got the over. I've got the over.
Yeah, Missouri against the pass is not very good. But again, you're exactly right. I've watched South Carolina do this before where it's like, all right, they're bad. It's a disaster. Back the FEMA trailers up. Like, it's over. They're cooked. And then they come out, and you're like, oh, my God. They just beat the hell out of Tennessee. And then Clemson, like, I've watched them do this before. So nothing would surprise me. But with Missouri, I will say this. I don't think Missouri's had enough success to overlook anybody. I think they realize that they're still in the hunt halfway past the halfway point throughout the season. And one of the things, if I was a Missouri fan, that I would take the most solace in is that not only did you just go beat Kentucky on the road by 17 points, you beat Kentucky on the road by 17 points, and your best player really didn't do anything in Luther Burden. So I think Missouri, they are vulnerable because I don't think their personnel level is as good as the top teams, right? As Georgia and I think right now roster wise that they're somewhat close to Tennessee. I think Tennessee has more depth, but this Missouri team, man, they're dangerous. They just got pieces. But if there's any weakness they have, it's defensively against the pass. And if anybody can exploit that, it's Spencer Rattler, the one-man band. It just feels like maybe one of those spots like, all right, Shane, y'all running a kickback or what? Like, when is it happening? Like, it's going to happen. I know it's going to happen. Is it this game? I don't know. What time is that game? What time
3:30. 3:30 Eastern.
God,
2:30 Central.
Fan, you were rooting on 11 o'clock.
Yeah.
Like, come on, 11 o'clock in Missouri. I mean, what's somebody doing picking apples?
To that point, Jake, I think either this week or next week, it will not stun me if we see it happen because you get the 11 o'clock kick in College Station. And I mean, Texas A&M, I don't even know where they're at mentally or what have you. There's some Aggie fans on social media.
Texas A&M's the guy from Split.
Yeah. There's some Aggie fans that want South Carolina to win the game to get Jimbo out of there quicker. So that kind of tells you where they are. But yeah, I mean, back to your point about Rattler, man, it does too. The other reason I look at this game, it feels like at some point, if it keeps coming down to quarterback battles, at some point, one of them is going to go Rattler's way. I know you've talked about this, Jake. It's such a shame because I watch South Carolina football and I look up in the third quarter and Rattler's like 12 for 12 for 150, 2 touchdowns. I mean, he's literally perfect and the game is tied. And I'm like, the game's tied. Like,
Yeah.
it's insane to watch right now because yeah.
You're gonna look back again. I've garnered so much respect for Spencer Rattler, and we've talked about this multiple times. But I'll say it again: the two most important players to their teams in college football are both in a state with Carolina in the last name. It's Spencer Rattler and it's Drake May. So with that Spencer Rattler, who knows, Chris? Who knows where this team is? Because the man is literally, and this isn't saying nobody else has played well. We've seen other guys. I know Juice Wells has been hurt too, but man, I mean, Spencer is literally carrying this team. Not even just offensively. There's times where they're just getting gashed so bad defensively. Like, we got to score, Spencer, create something, put it in the Etch-a-Sketch. So now I'm with you, man. Like, it's you would think, but other teams know that too. I mean, it's almost to the point where it's like, all right, Spencer's going to get his. Let's just take care of everything else and we'll win the game.
And a pivotal game at that, Jake, certainly. I mean, again, that 4-game losing streak in Missouri hangs over the heads of Gamecock fans. And it's so funny, Jake. It's one of those streaks where, I remember being at SEC Media Days this summer, and I had people in my mentions saying that, Gamecock fans saying that I don't care if Missouri beats us again this year. We're still better than Missouri. It's one of those streaks where it's like the team that loses every year can't fathom that they're not the better team, if you will.
Yeah.
Which that's obviously that plays well on Twitter, but it doesn't.
Why
play
is it
well
called
on
the Mayor Cup?
Yeah, the Mayor's Cup. I genuinely
what that makes no, like, why is it not like the same name game or the Columbia or something?
Yeah, they're both Columbia. They're both in Columbia, I guess. And the Mayor's, I don't really know, man. It's one of those
you can't trust
forced,
the Mayor, man.
It's one of those weird forced trophies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, what an original name. Great job.
Yeah, indeed. Last thing on this game, though, you've got Mizzou -6.5. What do you think the difference is? I mean, do you just look at the South Carolina defense and say there's no way to get a stop? Again, I've locked in Jake over 59.5. I just see no way.
Yeah,
and what's interesting, the under in this series, Jake, the under in this series is 9-2 with the average points per game between the two teams being scored at 46. That's going to get shattered. In no way does that hold up. But what stands out to you about Mizzou, the matchup as a whole, why you're going with Mizzou -6.5 and obviously taking the Tigers to win?
Because I think Missouri's multidimensional on offense, and I think South Carolina is a one-trick pony, and it's a hell of a trick with Spencer Rattler. But over 4 quarters, you have a lot better chance to score more points if you can do more things better offensively. And on the opposite end of that, if this Missouri defense may not be the best, especially against the pass, but if you only do one thing well, eventually there are going to be stops. I think Missouri, with the home field advantage and their ability to just move the ball at will through the air and on the ground. And I wonder if South Carolina is at a point now where when it starts going bad during the game, how bad is it going to go? Is it all right? Well, so what's that show with Mandy Moore on ABC? Like, this is us. This is us, right? This is who we are now. So I don't know mentally how that team is. Shane does a really good job of keeping that locker room together, but going on the road, there's a lot of momentum in Como right now. If it gets bad early, especially with the way that Missouri got up against LSU and let them come back. Now, LSU on offense, that's a totally different animal. I think they're the best offense in the country. But, if it starts rolling downhill, can South Carolina be able to rein it back in? But I just think Missouri overall right now is the better team. I feel like they can attack South Carolina in more ways. And South Carolina is so pigeonholed offensively that Spencer can go out there and play an elite game, and they can still lose by 2 touchdowns.
On a bit of a side note, Jake, before we get in these other games, a lot of talk earlier this week, over the last couple of weeks, about transfer portal, NIL, because when you're losing games, I think people are starting to look at that and say, how to improve the football team, obviously. And the question I have for you is this, and I'm not sure if there's really a defined answer because every situation is different, obviously, but we know coaches' leashes aren't as long as they used to be, right? Like, coaches aren't getting 6 or 7 years to build a program. Shane Beamer himself went on record and said, I know there's no 6-year building plan, what have you. how long do you feel like what's a fair is there a defined fair amount of time for a coach to build a program up to a certain level in the transfer portal NIL era? Because we're seeing some programs, rosters are being flipped what feels like overnight, results are being flipped overnight, what have you, others not so much. Like, is it as simple as to say, well, in the transfer portal NIL era, you should have it rolling by year blank, or is it dependent on the situation more? So, like, how do you
Yeah.
view that? Because again, fan patience certainly has decreased since the transfer portal NIL era, I think, has begun.
Yeah, well, I mean, society, it's not a what have you done for me lately? It's what are you doing for me literally right now? Here's what I think. I think it's circumstantial. I think it's a lot different if you take over at a place like LSU as opposed to taking over a place like FIU. You know, so how well, you know, or how easy is it to operate, you know, the operation, for lack of a better term, and how quickly, how many resources do you have? How quickly can you get it back going? That depends on where you're at. Now, if I had to put a blanket number on it with the transfer portal and say what would be my mean, right? Or the year I would say this is the minimum number of years it would take at most places, and then the maximum number of years it would take at a big time place, I would still say it's 3, right? The rule of thumb was 3, because it's not just bringing in great players, right? Obviously, you want to bring in great players. Now through the transfer portal, you can bring in great players that aren't in high school, that don't have to really develop, and they've played at this level. But culture takes time to build, and that's a word that a lot of people throw out. Oh, culture. It's like one of those buzzwords, but it's a real thing. Like, culture takes time. It's great leaders teaching great young players how to become great leaders, and it's the foundation your house is built on. So when the players come and go, that culture stays there. It doesn't matter what color the drapes are; you're still kicking somebody's ass, or what color the paint is on the outside. So I would say 3 years. And I would think now with the transfer portal, in reality, it's probably 2 at places that are big brand places, or places that can show they can win. That's why I kept saying, when Prime was doing what he was doing at Colorado, every head coach in the world was like, oh my God, here we go. Now they're going to expect us to be just awesome right out of the gate when just using the transfer portal. So I think the biggest detriment in Shane Beamer's tenure so far right now, and listen, South Carolina's not, I can go ahead and tell you, South Carolina's not going to be top 5 in recruiting every year. That's not going to happen. It's just not. It may happen once in a while. Not that it's impossible, but South Carolina has to be able to get in offensive linemen and defensive linemen by this time that can help them compete at the other places. That's been the biggest detriment. That's no secret. Y'all know that. South Carolina's offensive line, for lack of a better term, they're not good enough at football. Like, that's just the truth at this level. Right? And that doesn't mean there aren't group of 5 players that can come over and play at this level. South Carolina just didn't get a lot of them. Right? Defensive line, rushing the passer. So it's not good enough for where they're at right now. And Shane knows that. And he's going to try and fix it. And the minute that gets fixed, everything else will start coming together. But if you can't get that right, you're not going to win. This is a game that is won and lost up front. And it'll always be that way.
Yeah, I just think it's an interesting conversation, Jake, because you sit in year 3 of the Beamer era. I look at Arkansas and year 4 of Pittman, and I wonder, like, when is the right time to raise the red flag? You know what I mean? Like when is it? When do you start worrying that? And I'm not saying I'm even near this area with Shane Beamer. Obviously, I'm just surveying the college football landscape, and
After
again,
3 is when I'd start to get worried. But then again, look, it happens on different times. Look at Dabo. There's a great example. They're ready to fire him into the sun, shoot him right past Icarus, who's melting. But then all of a sudden, you know what happens. So look, you don't want to get rid of a coach too early. I say 3 years, and then all of a sudden, I thought what Michigan did and what Nebraska did was great. You know what they did? They walked in there. Michigan said, "Hey Jim, listen, man, come here, look at me, Jim. Listen, we're gonna need some of that money back unless you start winning." And they got some of that money back, and then he started winning. Now, it helped Urban Meyer left. But with Scott Frost, Nebraska did the same thing. They're like, Scott, you're a great player. We love you. Like, we have your trophies all in here. But like, you got to start winning, or we're not going to give you all this money. So I think it's coming. Damn, John, 5 years? 5 years? All right. You know what? As a guy who coached for a long time, you're a great fan, bro. Coaches love fans that think 5
I
years.
mean, Jake, admittedly, to John's point, I said the day Beamer was hired, they had to give him 5 minimum. They had to lock in for the long haul.
I get that. I
As
get
long
that.
as long as he's making bowl games each of those years, having enough momentum to stack quality recruiting classes. But this also actually, Jake, takes me to something else that I'm to the point. I'm just going to stop looking at national recruiting rankings because in the SEC, you can rank 15th nationally in recruiting. And it's like this ego stroke, right? Like, look how great we're doing in recruiting. It's like you're 9th in the SEC in recruiting. Like, who gives a damn? Like,
Yeah,
you're
like, look,
making no progress.
everybody's recruiting good.
Yeah,
Like,
you're making no progress. It's
I want to
crazy.
say this though. I want to say this though. Like it's South Carolina. Like I don't know. I feel like y'all are better than that. I feel like y'all, and you don't want to keep getting rid of coaches every 3 years. That's not what I'm saying. You get in that Tennessee cycle, right? We've seen that a million times. And then you kind of go into the dark ages for a little bit. But 5, like, look, if I'm South Carolina and I'm making the decisions, if it keeps going downhill year 3, you go in there and talk to Beamer and say, listen, year 4, this is a big year. And it's tough because Spencer Rattler's gone, right? Like you may have fixed some other holes, but Spencer Rattler's gone. So like 5 years, I'm just not used to the standard being like that. Like I'm used to, look, if South Carolina finishes 4-8, we still gonna say 5 years? You still gonna say 5 years?
To John's point, and I'll say this too, though. From the energy, I think John is a very level-headed, realistic Gamecock fan. There's a reason he and I get along so well. But
yeah, and I'm not saying he's wrong. I'm not saying he's wrong.
Energy I can tell you this, Jake, from the energy I have felt from the Gamecock fan base over the last couple of weeks, starting with the loss to Tennessee, and how hungry this fan base is to get back to what Steve Spurrier had this program at. I think if South Carolina is still a 5-7, 6-6 program in 2025, year 5, I don't think he gets more than 5 years. That is just my guess. I'm not saying that's going to happen. I think the way they're recruiting, they are bringing in those offensive linemen, defensive line. But I'm just saying, to your point, like it's much easier said than done, right? It's so easy to be like, over the off season, we're going to get 5, and then when you go through the week to week grind of losing wears on you. Like,
it does. And I want to say this, I think Shane's going to figure it out. I think Shane is going to. I believe in Shane Beamer being successful at South Carolina, but I do think this next year. I mean, it's no surprise. Every year is huge, but we got to let this year in first. You never know. South Carolina all of a sudden rattles off a bunch of wins in a row. All of a sudden it's Shane Beamer. Here's the key to the city. Like we believe. So, I brought up the Dabo thing, and I see Carl just brought it up in the chat too. Yeah, like that's the thing. That's what makes it so hard. You got to let him get his run. You got to give him a chance to run the ground ball all the way out, and you got to wait until the last second to be able to really kind of make that decision, because it's a hard decision. And I don't know, doesn't it just feel like in your gut it's going to work out with Shane? Like just like instinctually. Like I don't know. It feels right, man. But it felt right with Sam Pittman in Arkansas. That's the thing that scares you.
Taken away, I know wins and losses is what matters. I'll just say this, Jake. I don't think there is a coach out there in college football that would give a better effort to get it done more than Shane Beamer. There's nobody that's going to care more. There's nobody. Now, does that mean that he's the guy to get them back to 10+ wins every year? I'm not saying, who knows? Who knows? But I will say,
I believe in Shane.
There's not a guy out there who wants to do it more so, who is more determined to do it, who I think believes in South Carolina and what it can be versus what it's always been, than Shane Beamer. So I think, and listen, maybe Beamer's the guy to get South Carolina to the guy. You see what I'm saying? But, that we'll have to wait it out and see.
Let him get that spark year. Let him get that year you win 10 games. I see. That's the thing.
But to your point, no coach is immune to the effects of losing. No coach. I don't care how good the culture
cures
is.
Everything, and losing ails everyone. That's just the truth.
Yeah. Now, Jake, the Week 8 slate in college football, a great slate of games. We'll keep it in the SEC. The third Saturday in October, Bama, Tennessee. I saw early in the week you locked in Tennessee in the points. I think it was around double digits, maybe 9.5, something like that. Two great front sevens.
Ooh, not me. I think that may have been Blaine.
Was it Blaine? Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Wrong
This game.
Crain. My
Ooh.
apologies. Wrong Crain. Two great front sevens. I don't trust Joe Milton. I'm rolling with Bama at home. Your thoughts on this one?
Yeah.
I love the under too. I think this is a low
Mhm.
scoring ball game. Your thoughts on the third Saturday in October?
Yeah, I'm with you. I think there's actually a lot of parallels in the Tennessee going to play Bama and Penn State going to play Ohio State. The reason I say that is what's Tennessee's big advantage? It's their front seven in the pass rush against Alabama's offensive line. What's Penn State's biggest advantage? It's the front seven and Chop Robinson them in the pass rush going up against an Ohio State offensive line that looks somewhat mortal. But I do not trust I don't trust Jalen Moreau, honestly, but I really don't trust Joe Milton to be able to make the throws on third and medium and third and long to be able to extend drives. I don't think he can make the throws in the red zone to turn field goals into touchdowns. And I think they will get after Alabama offensively, on defense for a while, but eventually that dam's going to break, right? I think we've seen teams sack Bama. We've seen teams shut the run down against Bama, but especially at home, it seems like Jalen Milroe at some point is going to be able to find somebody down the field. I just don't. This Tennessee team is the exact inverse of last year's team. They do not hit explosive plays. They're a defensive, grind it out on offensive team, try not to make too many mistakes on offense, and kind of beat you heavy, as we used to say. I don't think they can. I actually like Bama to cover this. I do like the under 2, especially if it's at 48.5.
Okay, I apologize. The wrong Crain there. I thought it was you.
All
That I
good.
saw had
It's
the-
all
had
good.
the
Look, I've
name.
locked in USC and Missouri. Those are the two.
Fair enough. Keeping it in the SEC, Jake, it feels like, and this isn't like a top of the radar type of game or anything, but in the SEC landscape, it feels like rubber meets the road in Fayetteville for the Sam Pittman era. If you lose this one in Mississippi State, I mean, you get ready to burn it down, right? I mean, it's kind of how it feels at this point.
It's cripple fight. 100% cripple fight.
Best pillow fight on TV.
Without a doubt. Look, Arkansas needs this one. You talk about coaches that are in trouble. Pittman's lost 5 in a row. And you lose this one, you look at the rest of that schedule. You got to go to Florida right after that. Then you get, Auburn at home, which you should win, and then FIU at home. And then I think you go to Missouri. Needs this one bad. Mississippi State, I've been let down defensively by Mississippi State. I thought under Zach they'd be better. I was interested to see the transition with Will Rogers and this offense going from the air raid to more of a balanced system. And, they got some pretty decent players over there. Tulu Griffin's nice. Woody Marks at running back is nice. Arkansas, returning KJ, returning Rocket. We kind of know who they are. I think they wiggled their way through this one and find a way to win. But this is a game that I love. I'll watch some of it because I love football. Let's just put it that way. And I have to do it.
Hey, we will be when it gets to the off season, we will be wishing for an Arkansas.
Oh, dude, I would literally get, swift kick in the groin to see Arkansas play FIU. Just please.
By the way, this is a complete side note. JMU covered last night, correct?
Wagon.
Yeah, I finally, when I gave my gambling picks, I was like, I don't know hardly anything about Marshall, but you know what? It's one guy who's the best damn guy in the group of 5. It's a shame they can't go to a bowl game. I'm just going to start hammering JMU until I have no reason.
Wagon. Dude, it's amazing. it's just free money. Legitimately, it's free. And you want to know what's crazy? 2 best teams in Virginia, James Madison and Liberty. And it's not even close. It's not even close. Wagon.
Jake, to the Plains, Auburn and Ole Miss. This is one, too. You look at the spread, 6.5. It smells kind of funny. Ole Miss comes off the bye week. They had a chance to get healthy, but we feel like this is going to be a year where obviously Hugh Freeze and Auburn are able to get somebody. Is it this week? Can they keep up with Ole Miss? Can they make the defensive plays to win this football game?
I just think they can't rush the passer. I don't see how you stop anybody when you can't rush the passer. I mean, you give Jackson Dart, who I think seeing through intermediate defenders better, or at least seeing that they're there and not throwing the ball right to him like he did last year. I just don't trust Auburn's ability in the passing game over 4 quarters and pass rush ability. Jordan Hare, weird stuff happens. There's typically 1 or 2 games where Lane Kiffin's teams really don't play well against competition they're better than. Could it be this weekend? I mean, Ole Miss struggles at Auburn. But at the end of the day, I just feel like Ole Miss is too much. I just feel like too much.
Jake, finally, the rest of the college football slate, what stands out to you? Obviously, I know you just mentioned the headliner, Ohio State, Penn State. Cannot wait to watch that one. Clemson, Miami, another interesting game. Utah, Southern Cal. Yeah. What are you most excited to see this weekend?
Man, I think this Clemson-Miami game has a chance to be really good. Clemson doesn't have the best skill
Apparently they need to lose more so people get off the bandwagon per
Dude, that was
Dallas.
the
So
dumbest thing I've ever
maybe
why?
they'll fulfill the promise.
Why is it in the state of South Carolina that right when you get in a press conference, you just start
Bro,
saying it's just word
this
vomit?
week was crazy. I'm like, I
Stop
don't know what
saying everything.
a
It's
mid-off is going on.
Yeah, I just feel like if somebody asks them like, "Hey, your wife's in here. She's pregnant. She wants to know, does she look fat?" And they're like, "Yeah, for sure. For sure. She definitely looks fat." Dude, stop saying the truth all the time. Like it's like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not saying lie, but come on, man. You ain't got to say everything that comes to your mind. But no, this Miami defense, I think, is for real. Clemson doesn't have skill players that can really separate on the outside. I think it's going to be low scoring. I think Cade actually makes a couple mistakes. I like Miami in that game. I like USC big over Utah. I think that's one to keep an eye on. I'll tell you a good bet. Toledo -2 at Miami, Ohio. It's a matchup of the two best teams so far in the MAC. We'll probably get a rematch this in the conference championship. But I'm telling you right now, Toledo's better than everybody else in the MAC. I don't care if it's on the road. I know Little Gabbert's played at that school for like 18 years. I don't think that would be a bad bet at all. Also, Memphis UAB over 61. Dude, I looked at the weather. I'm just waiting for it to be like, oh, there's a tsunami that's going to hit. Like in Birmingham. That's why it's so. But no, I'm telling you, I don't think that's a bad bet.
Final thing, Jake, before I get you out of here, appreciate you being gracious with your time. What do you make of this Michigan stuff? It just feels like it's one thing after another. And I think you said the NCAA hates Michigan, right? What's going on?
Well, it's like, okay, like which one of y'all Jim Harbaugh bully in middle school? Like it's to that point. Okay, sign stealing, everybody steals signs. Okay, from high school to college.
It's across all sports, too. I mean, baseball
it's across all
huge,
sports.
Yeah.
We used to send guys during the bye weeks to high school games. The 1 year I coached high school to watch the other team and get their signals. Like you have to keep changing your signals throughout the year and during the offseason. Because if that was so egregious, how could anybody, offense or defense, ever overcome one coach going from one school to another school that plays each other and he knows the signals? You'd never be able to recover. I mean, we saw Mike Leach use this against the team. I've seen coaches use sign stealing against the people stealing signs. I think this is because Harbaugh embarrassed the NCAA with the Burgergate thing, and he would always mock him, and then he used his suspension as like a PR stunt to let his other coaches be head coach and bring his dad back, which just piled on the NCAA. The NCAA, they're like J. Edgar Hoover's FBI. They have files on everybody, but they only select the people they don't like, and they go find the crime. Like that's what they do. They find the person they don't like, then they find the crime. That's what it seems like for Michigan right now. It's just, man, the NCAA sucks, dude. They're the worst. Like, I can't stand these guys. Like, I wish it was just one entity so we could, like, send our best fighter to, like, just go beat up the NCAA. So just leave everybody alone. Like real Cobra Kai situation.
That's one thing I think, Jake, we can all agree on. The NCAA does indeed suck. So there you go. It's a good place to leave it. Jake Crain of Crain and Company does a fantastic job. Jake, who's the guest picker on Crain and Company this weekend?
Man, we got Adam Brenneman, former Penn State tight end. We want to get a former player up. We did a real big deep dive into what Penn State does offensively, if they'll be able to find some explosive plays. So we're picking all the games. It's easy to find. It's Crain and Company, CRAIN and Company on YouTube. And yeah, man, picking all of them, throwing our bets out there. I'm excited, man. I got a good feeling about this weekend.
Jake, you're the man. I appreciate you. We'll do it again next week. Thank you so much for your time.
Y'all be good.
Yeah, man. You too. Great stuff, guys, from Jake Crain. Always an electric conversation. That being said, guys, we're going to jump into a quick break. On the other side, we open it up to you guys. It is our Friday Q&A, taking your questions, your comments, your voicemails here on this Friday on game day eve before South Carolina takes on the Missouri Tigers tomorrow in Como. All that and more on the other side. You're tuned in to the Daily Crow. The Daily Crow is brought to you by our friends at Carolina Cigars. Carolina Cigars has been in operation since 2008, recently taken over by the Peterson family in 2020. Whether you're new to the cigar scene or whether you've been enjoying cigars your entire life, Carolina Cigars has the expertise and knowledge to make your visit to their shop enjoyable. Stop by for a fine cigar and experience their classic cigar lounge where people come together, share conversations, and become friends. So if you're into cigars and you're on Hilton Head Island, you really do need to go by and see them. They offer same-day shipping nationwide, free delivery island-wide for weddings and all special occasions. They're also proud to offer premium cigars at 9 outside humidor locations around Hilton Head Island, and they have special events throughout the year as well. They want to talk to you. They want to engage. They want to share with you their cigar selection they're very proud of and their beautiful cigar lounge. When you're in the Low Country, there's only one place for cigars. That's Carolina Cigars, and there's only one place I get my cigars. That's Carolina Cigars, Hilton Head Island's premier cigar merchant. Come and share your passion. It's all here at Carolina Cigars. Give them a follow on Instagram at Carolina_cigars, or give them a call today at 843-681-8600. That's 843-681-8600. Smoke them if you got them, and tell them that Chris from the Spurs Up Show sent ya. The Daily Crow is also brought to you by our friends over at A1 Air Quality Consultants. Headaches, coughing, running nose while in the office or just in your home, call A1 Air Quality Consultants to have your air checked today. From Columbia to Asheville, Anderson to Charlotte, they are your breath of fresh air for all of your air quality needs. Be sure to give them a call or shoot them a text today at 864-619-2092. That's 864-619-2092. You can also contact them via email at a1airqualityconsultants@gmail.com. Be sure to check them out. We thank A1 Air Quality Consultants for their love and support of the Spurs Up Show, and tell them that Chris from the Spurs Up Show sent ya.
Macho Dougie, ho.
Ladies and gents, boys and girls, we are back here on this Friday, October the 20th, 2023. Appreciate each and every single one of you tuning in. Let me say thank you yet again to our good friend Jake Crain of Crain and Company. Always an electric conversation when we get Jake on the airwaves. That being said, guys, it is time. Friday Q&A wide open, taking your questions, your comments, your voicemails. As well, I want to hear from you as we sit just over 24 hours away from another South Carolina kickoff. Let's jump into it. Arthur Bear says, maybe sports are fixed. They are extremely close on these lines. How in the world would they know the lines on these games and be so accurate? Arthur Bear, a lot of math, a lot of studying, a lot of crunching numbers. You look at trend. There's a lot of different ways, Arthur Bear, that they come up with it. There's a lot of different ways they figured out. It is crazy, though, it's crazy how good the guys in Vegas are. John Edwards says, we ain't going 5-7. John Edwards, what would you predict right now? What would you predict right now for South Carolina's final record? What would you predict right now? Let's see. Anyways, Eric Reese, my guy Reese Creative. What's going on, man? Appreciate you. The man behind all of our great graphics on social media. Who's the punching bag of the East? Beamer, Stoops, or Drinkwitz in terms of head coaches? Doesn't it feel like Beamer catches more hell than anybody? It feels like Beamer catches more hell than anybody, truly. Let's see. Shannon Burke says, beat Mizzou. DGD, what's up, man? He says, hopefully I'll get back on the right foot tomorrow. I feel like there is some pun intended in that. Let's see. Carl Holder talking about firing the coach is why South Carolina can't recruit. I mean, Carl, we were not talking about firing Shane Beamer. We were just having an open, honest conversation about coaches and their windows and how long they have to get it done. I think it's a very interesting conversation. And I'll tell you this, Carl. I'll tell you this. If South Carolina can't get a recruit because of what I say on the Spurs Up show, what we say, then you know what? We don't want them anyways because you're soft. You're mentally fragile. That's the way I look at it. Let's see. Justin, what's up, TSUS fam? Not fire the head coach, but Ray Charles can see that Clayton White has lost it and needs to go. And if Shane can't see that, at minimum, his ability to hire good coaches has to be questioned. We were saying the same exact thing, Justin, last year about Marcus Satterfield and Shane Beamer. If he can't see that Sat needs to go and he's got to get a new coach in there, well, Beamer's not the guy. So I think what needs to happen is this. Shane Beamer is not going to fire Clayton White midseason. It's not going to happen. You got to grin and bear it through the rest of 2023. Keep your fingers crossed and pray to the good Lord that adjustments are made. After this season, Clayton White needs to be relieved of his duties. Let's see who Shane Beamer gets in here, and then we will judge Beamer accordingly on that hiring. I think you learn a lot about coaches when they fire and hire for the first time. Learn a lot about them. Are you able to go out and get guys who fit what you're trying to do and who are going to be productive, obviously, and put the product you want on the field? I mean, we feel like right now, and, we'll see. We'll see how Dowell Loggins does next year without Spencer Rattler under center. But so far, so good. The signs point to that was a massive upgrade. If Shane Beamer is able to massively upgrade yet again on the defensive side, I think things could start to turn for South Carolina football. I do. Let's see. Carl Holder, O-line and D-line, the problem, not the head coach. I mean, we definitely know line of scrimmage is a problem in Columbia. There's no question. John Rice, you got to give him 5 years, in my opinion. 3 is too soon. Can't even run through a full class in 3. I would agree, John, that I don't think you fire coaches after 3 years. I think that's way too short of a window. I do think that's too short of a window. I will tell you this. If South Carolina, no matter if they finish 5-7, if the Gamecocks miss a bowl game, I think there's significant pressure on Beamer next year. I think there's significant pressure not to go win 10 games or something like that, because you are going to have a freshman or redshirt freshman quarterback in Lenora Sellers. You are still going to be young in some spots, right? What have you. It's still going to be sort of a work in progress at the line of scrimmage. But I think having a 7+ win season, even with those guys, I think there's going to be a lot of pressure to show that progress. A lot of pressure. John says, I'm realistic as a South Carolina fan. We will never find success if we keep churning out coaches after 3 years. And John, I agree with you. That's why I said when Beamer was hired, you got to lock in with him for the long haul. The only stipulation I had to it was I think it's important for Beamer in these first, let's say, the 5-year window to make bowl games. Because you look at, like, I know we don't like to talk about it, but you look back at Will Muschamp, guys. Will Muschamp's problem, it really wasn't that, well, we didn't win that 10 game. We didn't hit that 10-game mark. We didn't get to the level that Spurrier had us at. Will Muschamp's problem was it fell off a cliff. That was his problem. It went from what? What was it? 6-6 to a 9-win season to 7-5, and then it went to 4-8, and then it went to 2-8. Right? Like, it fell off of a cliff. That was the problem. That was the problem for South Carolina. That was the problem for Muschamp. It wasn't because they didn't win 10 games. So, I mean, that's the key for Beamer is keeping this season, at least keeping it afloat. Like, if you can get to 6 wins, man, that would be huge. I know, I know there's some out there that would disagree, but at the point you're at right now, and I don't know what just happened, how that thumbs down just came up. Did somebody just thumbs down me? What happened? What happened there? Did y'all see that? I don't know what just happened there. Anyways, you got to keep it afloat. Get to bowl games. Keep positive momentum. I think that's imperative for Shane Beamer. Let's see. Han Brolo 90. Bro, why are you blowing up Spotify with 5 episodes a day? Make one long one, please. Han Brolo, you might be the only person in the world that would rather that be the case. Han Brolo, the content is broken out. I'll tell you exactly why. The content is broken out so that you don't have to scan over a 2-hour show to hear exactly what you want to hear. Those 5 episodes, they are the show. It's just broken out in much easier to consume segments for you. So the feedback on doing that has been extremely positive, and we're going to continue to do so. That's why it happens, though. That's why we do that, because instead of having to scour through or survey through a 2-hour show, the things you want are right there. I know for me as a consumer, guys, I don't want to listen to a 2-hour show. I don't have time. But I will listen to a 20-minute show, 25-minute, 15-minute, what have you. And I see Ian Holt saying the same thing. Maybe that's the same guy. That's probably the same guy, actually. Han Brolo 90. So, yeah, that's why we do it, and we're going to continue that way. So, Steve Austin, thank you for doing a great job. Please keep it up. I'm glad I found your channel this week. Steve, thank you. Thank you, Steve. I appreciate that. Awesome. Great to have you, Steve. You're the best. Let's get back into these questions. Let's see. Steve Austin said, actually, hope Shane Beamer learns how important the portal is, and that's the way college football is moving towards. If he wants to win, he has to win the portal every year. Steve, I think he knows how important the portal is. I think it was just a bad portal cycle over the last year. And, I think you're going to see South Carolina be very, very active in the portal. Absolutely. I think they understand how important it is. You're going to see that. I think the commitment to getting top tier talent out of the portal, I think it'll be there. John, I would much rather commit to a coach we think can get us there for a few roadblocks than churn coaches after 3 years trying to find immediate success in the portal. I think Shane can get us there. John, I would agree. I'll say this. I would agree because, as the head coach at the University of South Carolina, making $6.5 million a year, you deserve criticism, right? Let's just call it for what it is. Again, I talked about this earlier in the week. There's people that cannot separate. Like, you can be critical of decisions and decision-making and things that happen and also fully support the guy in charge, right? Like, if you're not criticizing, you don't care. That's what people don't get. Like, if you're not criticizing, you don't really, truly care. You don't want the best for South Carolina. You don't want the best for whatever respective school or whatever respective thing it is, right? You demand excellence because you care. And I see a thumbs up come up. How are you? I don't know how y'all are doing that, by the way. Maybe it's on YouTube. I have no clue, but apparently we're getting thumbs ups and thumbs downs and whatever. Anyways, though, I know that winning and losing on the field is what matters more than anything. But I'm here to tell you when it comes to Shane Beamer, South Carolina fans, South Carolina, you are better off, you are best off buckling in and riding out the Shane Beamer experience, good, bad, or indifferent. Because one of the best things Shane Beamer has going for him, there is nobody who is going to be more committed. There is going to be nobody who's going to work harder. There is going to be nobody who's going to take it more personally than Shane Beamer in regards to the success of South Carolina and getting South Carolina to the levels that this entire fan base wants to see. There's nobody else out there that is going to believe more in the university, who's going to believe more in what South Carolina can be, not what it's always been. Now, I don't say all that to say that winning and losing doesn't matter. You go 4-8 this year, you go 4-8 next year, I think we're having a conversation. I do. I think you have to have a conversation. Flat out. Because it does come down to wins and losses. But that being said, I don't think there's a better fit for South Carolina than Shane Beamer. I don't think so. At least at this current juncture. Aaron Hodges says the real question is, what is success at South Carolina? That's a great question. Aaron, I've said it many times, and some folks will disagree, but as someone who has watched South Carolina football for quite a while, it's why I said when Beamer was hired, if we look back, he's been here a decade, and South Carolina's averaging 8 wins per year over the course of that decade. He's the greatest coach in school history. I think South Carolina truly should strive to be an 8 to 9 win per year program. 8 to 9 wins per year. Be really solid. Guys, we all felt last year 8-4, 8-4 is a really, really fun season. 8-4 is a fun season, man. 9-3, even better. If you've got a program that on a yearly basis is winning 8 to 9 games, and then say every 3 to 4 years, you've either got the right quarterback or you got a veteran offensive line or the schedule works out well or, what have you. Every 3 to 4 years, you're competing for the 12-team playoff and winning double-digit games. I think that is a realistic place for South Carolina football to be. I think that's possible. And for those of you that say, why can't we be Clemson? Why can't we be Georgia? Why can't we be Alabama? Guys, you got to walk before you can run. Get to a point where you're an 8 to 9 win per year program for, 5 years, a decade, whatever. And then you can start talking about, okay, well, what do we need to do to get to the next level? Be a 10 win per year. Compete for the SEC East. And unlike what South Carolina did under Steve Spurrier, when you have your window, when you got a window, you just have to capitalize, guys. That's the biggest thing. That's the biggest thing. When you have an opportunity, you have to capitalize because they're just not going to come around very often. Like the next time South Carolina gets to Atlanta, win an if, and they go to the SEC championship, you got to win it because you just don't know when you're going to go back. You just don't know because it's so difficult to do it. Let's see, guys. 843-790-3377. Don't forget, you can call in and leave us a voicemail, or you can leave us or shoot us a text. As I mentioned yesterday, it's kind of ironic. Like, we had so many callers on a day-in, day-out basis when you could just call in freely. And now, like, none of those people leave voicemails. What does that tell you? I don't know. Let's see. Going through. Peyton Smith, if the Gamecocks get the win tomorrow, is 7-5 still a possibility? I would say if you win tomorrow is 7-5. I think so. Yeah. Yeah, I think it changes the perception of the season. You'll be going into College Station, taking on a very vulnerable Texas A&M team. I mean, you should have 2 more wins for sure in Jacksonville State and Vandy, so that would get you to 5-7 worst case. Yeah, and I think it's possible. I mean, listen, if Kentucky and Clemson are at night at home, I mean, I wouldn't put it past South Carolina to win both those games. I really wouldn't. I think that's what makes this stretch on the road at Mizzou, at A&M, I think that's what makes this so important, so pivotal. I think you got to split it at minimum. I think to have a shot at bowl eligibility, I think you have to split it. Have to split it. John Edwards says, Chris, I'm saying 6-6. Okay. I would love to, John Edwards, I'd love to see South Carolina just get to bowl eligibility. I really would. Lynn Turner, Beamer's recruiting at a higher level than any other coach we've ever had. And now we have to stack some more classes to build depth. We have too many players having to play too many snaps. Yeah, Lynn, Beamer's doing great in the recruiting side of things. Again, I would just go back to this. Let me pull this up. 2023 recruiting rankings, okay? South Carolina finished 16th nationally, right? 16th nationally, the Gamecocks finished. And in the SEC, they finished 7th, a solid class. 16th nationally puts you right in the middle of the SEC, okay? Right in the middle. Not top 5, not top 3, right in the middle. 2024, South Carolina currently 18th in recruiting. In the SEC, they sit at 10th. So, Lynn, I would agree with you that Beamer is doing some things in recruiting that have not been done before. At the same time, and by the way, that 10th includes Texas and Oklahoma because they will be in the SEC obviously next year. So 10th out of 16 teams. So need to continue to hammer the portal. I'll just keep saying that, man. If you're South Carolina, you got to hammer the transfer portal. You have to. Let's see. Harmon, Tennessee fan here who actually supports the Gamecocks, and we don't play them. I have real worries that Beamer is your Butch Jones. I hope things get back on track. I mean, Harmon, listen, at the end of the day, and you compare him to Butch Jones because of maybe some of his mannerisms, the things he said in pressers, right? Brick by brick, that's something that makes Tennessee fans cringe. At the end of the day, what you say in pressers really doesn't matter. It's going to come down to wins and losses, right? It's going to come down to wins and losses. So Shane Beamer's not going to get relieved of his duties at any point because he said something in a press conference that was absurd. It's going to come down to wins and losses. That's what it's going to come down to. Zach Hardy, if Clayton White still has a job next year, my opinion of Beamer's leadership will change. I think a lot of people are going to feel that way. Let's see. Lynn Turner, when players have to play 95% of the snaps on defense, the fourth quarter will be rocky. Lynn, I guess what's disturbing, though, is like it's not year 1, it's year 3. And it's just like, to me, it's like, how have you not recruited to a point to where you've got some guys in there? It's Lynn, it's inexcusable how bad you are on defense. It is. It's inexcusable. It really, truly is inexcusable. And then there's position groups that it's inexcusable how poor your depth is. It's just inexcusable. Flat out. Flat out. Brewer Nation, I want a bowl game too because most likely sellers and young guys would play in the bowl game. Yeah, that'd be awesome. Yeah. I mean, you got to think even if South Carolina, I mean, Gamecocks go 6-6 go to a bowl. I doubt Spencer Rattler's going to play in it. Just because he's got along the line with the NFL draft. And I mean, I think it'd be a great opportunity to play a lot of young guys for sure. For sure. Let's see. Jacob, Beamer's junior class was 80th, and Muschamp recruited the seniors. I think when the 2022 class reaches senior year, we can really compete. Bruce says, taking 5+ games to figure out Anderson was RB1. Taking 5+ games to figure out Joyner wasn't running back material, figuring out offensive line, taking 6 weeks, just dumbfounded things. I will say, Bruce, to your point, those things are concerning. And do you put it more on Beamer? Do you put it more on Montario Hardesty? But I would agree with you. There's been some personnel things this year that have been concerning. The way personnel is getting used on the defensive side. Rumination says, Chris, do you buy into or believe that BS Mark said about Beamer showing out at the high school game last year and not making social media? Rumination, I respect Mark Ryan's opinion and his word and his sources. I have no clue. I genuinely have no idea. Do I buy it? I need more to buy into it than just that word. Let me just put it that way. So I'm certainly not going to go out there and start running with that. Hard to believe, Ruination. That wouldn't make it to social media. Really hard to believe that in this day and age. But, Mark's sources and whatever, those are his sources and his things and what he hears and what have you. And that's fine. I have no idea. I have no clue what happened. I'm not going to try to speculate. Let's see. Luke RJ says, how confident are you in this magical upset road win, even with Missouri being a much better team? Luke RJ, I'm 51-49, man. Like I've just had a weird feeling, Luke RJ, all week. And so it's just one of those things where I just will not be stunned. I will not be stunned if South Carolina, after a week of turmoil and frustration and just disarray, I will not be stunned if South Carolina comes out and plays their best. I won't. I won't. College football is a weird game, guys. And everything on paper says that Mizzou should beat South Carolina. Everything. That was also the case last year when the Gamecocks played Tennessee. Arguably, it was the case last year when the Gamecocks played Clemson. I mean, it's just, everything on paper said, Graham Mertz shouldn't have thrown for 423 yards against the Carolina defense. Everything on paper said South Carolina shouldn't have led Georgia 14-3 at halftime. Everything on paper. So, I mean, what paper says, it doesn't always go that way. Now, I'm telling you that I'm admittedly going against the grain here. I'm admittedly telling you, hey, I don't have a lot of football reasons to back this up other than Spencer Rattler, and I think that at some point he's going to win one of these quarterback battles. And so, I mean, you know that I've got one heck of a gut feeling coming from me because I'm obviously not afraid to call it as I see it and pick it as I see it. And, I picked the blowout in Knoxville and people got all upset and butt hurt, and I didn't pick a big enough blowout, right? And, there's been other picks this year where I'm not afraid to ruffle the feathers of Gamecock Nation, no pun intended. But I don't know. I just have a weird – and I think Carolina is very capable of going out there and getting their butts beat. I really do. I really, really do. But it just feels like it's these times where South Carolina circles the wagons, bands together, and pulls off some crazy upset. It just would not totally shock me. So we'll see. I'd love to be right. Obviously, I would love to see it happen. And we'd just love to see it for Gamecock Nation, man. Gamecock Nation's so down and out right now, and it's so unfortunate, guys, to be at the halfway point of the season and people are just ready for it to be over. People are checking out. People are down and out and doom and gloom and, not a lot to crow about right now. So, anyways, guys, appreciate you all tuning in. Thank you all so much. before we go into the break, let me leave you with this, guys. Actually, you know what? We'll start it off. We'll go into a break, and then I'll kick it off with something I want to discuss. Taking your questions, your comments, your voicemails as well here on this Friday Q&A, wide open. We'll go till 2 o'clock. All that and more on the other side. You're tuned in to the Daily Crow. The Daily Crow is brought to you by our friends at Carolina Cigars. Carolina Cigars has been in operation since 2008, recently taken over by the Peterson family in 2020. Whether you're new to the cigar scene or whether you've been enjoying cigars your entire life, Carolina Cigars has the expertise and knowledge to make your visit to their shop enjoyable. Stop by for a fine cigar and experience their classic cigar lounge where people come together, share conversations, and become friends. So if you're into cigars and you're on Hilton Head Island, you really do need to go by and see them. They offer same-day shipping nationwide, free delivery island-wide for weddings and all special occasions. They're also proud to offer premium cigars at 9 outside humidor locations around Hilton Head Island, and they have special events throughout the year as well. They want to talk to you. They want to engage. They want to share with you their cigar selection they're very proud of and their beautiful cigar lounge. When you're in the Low Country, there's only one place for cigars. That's Carolina Cigars, and there's only one place I get my cigars. That's Carolina Cigars, Hilton Head Island's premier cigar merchant. Come and share your passion. It's all here at Carolina Cigars. Give them a follow on Instagram at Carolina_cigars, or give them a call today at 843-681-8600. That's 843-681-8600. Smoke them if you got them, and tell them that Chris from the Spurs Up Show sent ya. The Daily Crow is also brought to you by our friends over at A1 Air Quality Consultants. Headaches, coughing, running nose while in the office or just in your home, call A1 Air Quality Consultants to have your air checked today. From Columbia to Asheville, Anderson to Charlotte, they are your breath of fresh air for all of your air quality needs. Be sure to give them a call or shoot them a text today at 864-619-2092. That's 864-619-2092. You can also contact them via email at a1airqualityconsultants@gmail.com. Be sure to check them out. We thank A1 Air Quality Consultants for their love and support of the Spurs Up Show, and tell them that Chris from the Spurs Up Show sent ya.
Muscle Dougie, ho.
Ladies and gents, boys and girls, we are back here on this Friday, October the 20th, 2023. Truly appreciate you guys tuning in, man. Always a pleasure to chat with you all. Love these Fridays where we have the wide open Q&A and hear from you guys and interact. And again, I value the live show audience so much. I just want to express my gratitude, man. I'm truly grateful for each and every single one of you that tunes in. Also, be sure, by the way, guys, in the meantime, hit that subscribe button on YouTube. Hit the bell icon so you get notifications of when we go live, when we drop new video content as well. Also, be sure to subscribe to the podcast, iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you get your podcast. We did have a voicemail come in over the break. So without further ado, let's go ahead and kick it over to that. And we'll start off with our voicemail.
Hey, this is Bruce from Darlington. Bruce in the chat. I just wanted to ask you for the Saturday and maybe the games for the rest of the year, what is your thoughts about maybe kicking some onside kicks to try to get the ball and keep it away from Missouri's offense? Because in my opinion, if you can't stop them on if you can't stop their offense on defense, why does it matter if we punt it to them or kick it to them and they start on the 10 versus the 50? If they're going to score, they're going to score. So I'd just like to know what your thoughts are about using onside kicks as a way to keep the ball from Missouri and getting the ball back to our offense, which is our strong point. I appreciate all the hard work you do, and go Gamecocks.
Bruce from Darlington, thank you so much for calling in. I love the thought process, the aggressive nature of just like, let's just onside kick it. Let's go for it on fourth down. Let's do it. Let's do it. Yeah, it's I'm curious to see how aggressive South Carolina is because guys, isn't it so funny? Like we go into this game and Gamecock Nation feels like there's just no chance Carolina wins, and Carolina's only a 6.5-point underdog on the road. So Vegas is saying at Willie B, this is a pick 'em, right? It's a pick 'em. It's a pick 'em at home. Like, this isn't last year's Tennessee game where the Gamecocks were a 22-point underdog. Like, this isn't Georgia. It's just very, very interesting that the mood around this game is South Carolina has no chance. And then you look at Vegas and you're like, Vegas is expecting a close game. So, does South Carolina have to be as aggressive as kicking onside kicks every time? Or, I think you need special teams to play some sort of role, whether it's an onside kick, it's a fake punt, it's a kickoff return, it's a block punt, God forbid, like whatever it is. I do think you need special teams to play a role, and how aggressive South Carolina will be, I think it'll be interesting to see. I think a lot of that will have to do. I don't know if they come out of the gates that way, but I think the flow of the game will sort of dictate the aggressive nature, how aggressive they are, what have you. Guys, I want to switch gears a little bit about, and I want to say, thank you guys so much for rolling with the punches, because I know there's been more change with the Daily Crow, with the live show, than there's ever been, right? From, the format of the show going from just a wide open 2-hour Q&A, wide open, whatever, separating, live show and podcast, what have you, to go into a 3-hour show and then segmenting things, from doing that to taking away the Q&A power hour and going back to a 2-hour show, then adding the daily mailbag. Like, there's been a lot, right? There's been a lot of changes. And so when I bring up this potential newest one, I'm confident that you guys will roll with the punches and you will be supportive. And, I bring it to you all because I value your feedback. And I've got a great relationship with JC Sherbert, JB, Phil, those guys from inside the Gamecocks, what have you. But as you all know, Inside the Gamecocks has expanded their show 11 to 2. From 11 to 1 to 11 to 2. They added a third hour, which, happy for them. Congratulations. And I thought it was a good move on their part. Obviously, that means that their show totally engulfs the time we are live. They're live 11 to 2. We are live noon to 2. We used to have that second hour and that third hour to ourselves, and now we have nothing. And I'm someone, guys, I believe that I'm in competition with nobody. My work stands on its own merit. I'm really competing against myself on a day in, day out basis. But I also believe, and again, in flexibility and efficiency and just making smart business decisions on when we do things, how we do things, what have you. And so I want to open it up to you guys. I've toyed with the idea of making this a morning show versus making this a noon to 2 show, which would be a massive change because we've just been noon to whatever for forever since the show started. But would you guys be open to a 9 to 11 a.m. show? And again, I just simply do that because I go on YouTube over the break, right? And right now, people are having to choose, right? People are having to choose between the Daily Crow and Inside the Gamecocks, right? There's 115 people right now as I refresh YouTube watching. And there are like 50 watching us right now. So, I just look at that as people are having to choose. They're having to choose what show they watch. And so it would be nice for TDC to be not competing with any other shows simultaneously. So just want to get you guys' thoughts. How would you feel about a morning TDC? A morning TDC. Brewer Nation, the only issue with 10 to 12, you know what the issue with 10 to 12 is? We go on Inside the Gamecocks every Thursday at 11:30. So that's honestly why 9 to 11 would work, because I still want to be able to do that. So again, I know there's been a lot of changes, and I'm not even saying that I will, but after the football season at minimum, if Inside the Gamecock stays at 11 to 2, which I think it's a very high likelihood they will, there is a good chance this show is going to change the time. This show is going to change what times we're live. And so I don't know what the audience would be like 9 to 11. I don't know if there's some of you out there that maybe you could tune in that you can't now, or you couldn't tune in, but you can't. Like, I don't know. I don't know exactly what it would be, but I just know that there's a lot of people that are having to choose which show they tune into. And, it kind of sucks. It sucks. Honestly, if you want my honest opinion, it does suck. Luke Archase is 2 to 4. Maybe I kind of like, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe 2 to 4, maybe 3 to 5. I will say, to John's point, morning coffee with TDC. I also feel like I'm my sharpest in the morning. I do. I feel like I'm my sharpest. That's something that has evolved as I've gotten older. So that's just something I wanted to throw out there, guys. You want to give me your feedback? I'd love to hear it. Again, I know y'all roll with the punches, but obviously I'm very, very aware of how these decisions affect you guys, and just curious your thoughts. Anyways, okay, we do have a voicemail here. Let's get into this.
It's John Edwards. I just want to say I'm actually somewhat optimistic about tomorrow. It's just my whole thing is, like, we got to slow down Missouri a little bit. So, and I also want to say your show helps me get through the week. So I really appreciate that. All right, have a good weekend, bro. Bye.
John Edward, thank you so much, my friend. John Edward, thank you so much, my friend, for the voicemail. Yeah, I mean, I'm somewhat optimistic too, man. Can you get a couple stops defensively? You feel like the offense is going to show up, play well. Can you get a couple stops defensively, man? That's what it comes down to. Force a couple turnovers, get back to vintage South Carolina defense that we've seen before. Guys, big news, by the way, in the city of Columbia. Cotton Gin just put out a tweet, but they are effectively shutting down. New Brooklyn Tavern, I think it's called, is buying them. They just tweeted, "We'd like to take this opportunity to thank everyone who has supported us, whether you are a regular customer or you followed our journey with Gamecock recruiting. We appreciate you. The spirit behind that is not going away. Go Cox, #beat Missouri." So the marquee apparently too is going to change up. So apparently it sounds like there's going to be no more 5 points marquee, not going to be used for recruiting, not going to be used for NIL. So this crazy week gets even crazier. Yeah, John Edward, we just played your voicemail. Let's see. Robbie Moore, afternoon works best for me. Good luck if you go into a morning show. I mean, again, guys, no decisions have been made. I just know that right now, John Rice says you'd lose the lunchtime crowd. But right now, the lunchtime crowd is being split. They're having to choose between each show. And we are trying to generate and garner the largest audience we can. And it just, it would make a lot of sense to not be competing with another show simultaneously, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? So, and I love the noon to 2 slot, guys, but I mean, inside the Gamecocks is now 11 to 2. And again, I'm not saying that in a sense where it's like I'm upset they did that or I'm mad about, but it just is what it is. It just is what it is. And so I think it may be time for us to make an adjustment and go from there. So Hunter Johnson, predictions for Saturday. I got the Gamecocks 38 to 34. Robbie Davis says, if it's real, congrats on your speaking engagement. Only reason I say that because you said you had somebody pretending to be you, but if it's true, congrats. It is true, Robbie Davis. Somebody was pretending to be the Spurs Up show in the YouTube chat on Shane Beamer's presser. So Peyton Smith, is the spread disrespecting Mizzou? Is Vegas buying into Cocktober? I think Vegas is seeing that South Carolina is a little bit better than what they played against Florida, Mizzou, maybe not quite as good as they looked at Kentucky. We'll see. It is a very fishy line. It is a very, very fishy line. So Will Korb says, I want to be able to call Chris. Will, leave a voicemail, my guy. You're more than welcome. Brooke Odom said 9 to 11 would be great. Bruin Nation, 10 to 12 better for me, but you got to do what's best. Now, I appreciate you guys. Again, the love and support truly means the world. Taylor Made says, problem is all the other teams around us are now getting better. Georgia, Tennessee, Florida getting better again. We need to beat teams like Mizzou and Kentucky yearly. I mean, Taylor Made, that's a great point, and that's another thing that you need to hammer down why this is such a big game. I mean, it's just you cannot have a 5-game losing streak to Missouri and justify that your program is on the up and up. Like, this has turned into what the Kentucky streak was, right, in the mid-2010s. Like, it's just – it doesn't matter how great recruiting's going. It doesn't matter how great the culture is. It doesn't matter what upsets you're getting on the field. Like, if you have a losing streak to Missouri, all due respect to them, it's hard to justify that your program is on the rise. It's hard to justify that your program is getting closer to competing at a high level in the SEC. Really hard to justify. Let's see. Jeff Gullidge, your opinion absolutely matters. I like the time frame it is now because it gets me through the workday, but I know my opinion doesn't matter all that much. But, Jeff, your opinion does matter. I appreciate the feedback. Justin Martin, hey, Chris, are you still mad at the Gamecock football? The Gamecock football has not been good at all. Justin, what exactly do you mean by that question? Yes, I saw the SEC short. Yeah, it was painfully accurate. It was hilarious, but painfully accurate. Gavin, is Missouri's defense better than Florida's? No, I would not say they've still got a good defense, though. They've still got a really good defense. I don't think it's better. They got a really good defense. My guy, Mitch West. Go subscribe, by the way, to Mitch West Weather. Mitch does a fantastic job on his channel. Mitch, I appreciate you tuning in, man. He says that the Gamecocks somehow win 1 out of the next 2 games. I think we enter November with an opportunity for a fun month. Try and get to 3-5 and come home and finish strong. And not easy, but it can happen. Mitch, I agree with you. I think even if you just go 1-1, I think it's going to show a sign of life that, okay, this team is at least capable. And I mean, you get to 3-5, you feel like you're going to beat Jacksonville State, you're going to beat Vandy. If you can just get back to 500 going into those final 2 games, because Mitch and everyone else, you know as well as I do, if Kentucky and Clemson, if they're at night, if you get night games for those, that's what you have to keep your fingers crossed for. Keep your fingers crossed. You get those games at night. Because if you get those games at night, all bets are off. I mean, we've seen it firsthand, guys. South Carolina is a different football team. The way we talk about Auburn and Jordan Hare, like weird things happen at night at Jordan Hare, that's a crazy place, hard place to win. That's Willie B. Like, truly. You guys have seen it. We've all seen it firsthand. South Carolina is a different football team at night. If that Florida game, the worst thing that happened to South Carolina was that game being at 3:30. I think if that game's at night, Carolina finds a way to win. Call me biased, call me crazy. I truly believe that. So, split one of the next two. Don't do anything silly, right? Beat Jacksonville State, beat Vandy. Don't let anything crazy happen. Pray for night games against Kentucky and Clemson. I think there's your path to 6 or, God forbid, 7 wins. There's your path. But I just think you need to win one of the next two for confidence. You need to win one of the next two for confidence. Anyways, guys, 843-790-3377. John Rice, curious, did you see somewhere they're getting rid of the marquee at Cotton Gin as part of the change? John, in the article I read, it just said that the 5 points, like all the branding is going to be changed. So I believe that New Brooklyn Tavern is going to be using the marquee for their own promotion. I mean, I could be totally wrong. I have no idea. I'm just going based off what the article said. Let's see. Michael, I wouldn't write off the Vandy game. They always play to that level. I mean, Michael, with this defense, you can't really write off anybody, can you? You can't write off anybody. Let's see. Jeff Gullidge. I say that because I don't watch those other guys, so it's not a choice for me. TSUS is awesome. I don't feel that you should have to change unless you yourself want to change. I hear what you're saying, Jeff, and I truly, genuinely appreciate that, and that makes me feel good knowing we're going to have an audience follow us no matter if we were going 9 to 11, noon to 2, 2 to 4, 3 to 5, whatever it is. I just know, again, that, I want to draw the largest audience possible, right? Because I care about our live show audience. I care about, putting together a product to where people are able to tune in. And I just know right now, Inside the Gamecocks is going 11 to 2, and we're going noon to 2. And, I just, it is what it is. You know what I mean? It is what it is. So, it's not a, yeah, anyways, it's just an idea. It's just an idea. Justin Martin, South Carolina's defense is not good. They have got to get better. No doubt. Dude Raw for show. DeRude is performing before the Kentucky game. I'm sure it'll be at night. Well, unfortunately, Dude Raw, the only thing that decides that is TV, right? TV. So South Carolina needs to win some games because you're not going to get a night game if you have a losing record. We'll put it that way. Like, you're just not getting a night game. Josh Reichley says, remember, y'all, when comparing us to all the East teams for the future competition, we won't be playing them all yearly anymore. We are literally going up against the entire conference. Josh, that is a very, very, very good point. Very good point. Bruce, who steps up as wide receiver 2, Omega Blake, Eddie Lewis, Nick Harbor, Doty. Someone has to step up. That's a great question, man. And it's a question that we have on a week in, week out basis. Hunter Johnson says 10 to 12 would probably be an ideal time, right when the radio shows go off in the morning. Just a thought. Again, Hunter, the only thing stopping us from that is we go on Inside the Gamecocks every Thursday at 11:30. So it's like, how would that work out, right? How would that work out? It's the only thing. Gabe Hurst 55 in the predictions channel in the Big Cock Club Discord said 2 possible scores for this game. Mizzou either takes us to the cleaners and we lose 49-28, or Carolina pulls one out in true Carolina fashion and wins 42-35. Brennan M says intern Joe is the only one with Gamecock Central picking the W. Maybe that's what we need. Yeah. Seems like when everybody goes against South Carolina, that's when they play their best. We'll see if that happens again. Guys, we're going to jump into one final break. On the other side, we'll close out the show in style, taking your questions, your comments, your voicemails. And I want to hear from you your thoughts as we close it out. What are your predictions for tomorrow's game as the Gamecocks travel to Como to battle for the Mayor's Cup? All that and more on the other side. You're tuned in to the Daily Crow. The Daily Crow is brought to you by our friends at Carolina Cigars. Carolina Cigars has been in operation since 2008, recently taken over by the Peterson family in 2020. Whether you're new to the cigar scene or whether you've been enjoying cigars your entire life, Carolina Cigars has the expertise and knowledge to make your visit to their shop enjoyable. Stop by for a fine cigar and experience their classic cigar lounge where people come together, share conversations, and become friends. So if you're into cigars and you're on Hilton Head Island, you really do need to go by and see them. They offer same-day shipping nationwide, free delivery island-wide for weddings and all special occasions. They're also proud to offer premium cigars at 9 outside humidor locations around Hilton Head Island, and they have special events throughout the year as well. They want to talk to you. They want to engage. They want to share with you their cigar selection they're very proud of and their beautiful cigar lounge. When you're in the Low Country, there's only one place for cigars. That's Carolina Cigars, and there's only one place I get my cigars. That's Carolina Cigars, Hilton Head Island's premier cigar merchant. Come and share your passion. It's all here at Carolina Cigars. Give them a follow on Instagram at Carolina_cigars, or give them a call today at 843-681-8600. That's 843-681-8600. Smoke them if you got them, and tell them that Chris from the Spurs Up Show sent ya. The Daily Crow is also brought to you by our friends over at A1 Air Quality Consultants. Headaches, coughing, running nose while in the office or just in your home, call A1 Air Quality Consultants to have your air checked today. From Columbia to Asheville, Anderson to Charlotte, they are your breath of fresh air for all of your air quality needs. Be sure to give them a call or shoot them a text today at 864-619-2092. That's 864-619-2092. You can also contact them via email at a1airqualityconsultants@gmail.com. Be sure to check them out. We thank A1 Air Quality Consultants for their love and support of the Spurs Up Show, and tell them that Chris from the Spurs Up Show sent ya.
Watch your Dougie, ho.
Ladies and gents, boys and girls, we're back. Final 15 minutes or so here on the Daily Crow. Taking your questions, comments, calls, 843-790-3377. That's 843-790-3377. Christopher Young, I saw your tweet, by the way, just live on SEC this morning was a future headline prediction. Quote, Cox stubbed toe in Como. Which, dude, there's going to be a lot of like foot-related headlines. Win or lose, I think, by the way. Win or lose. Win or lose. Steve Austin, when will Juice Wells be back? Nobody knows for certain, Steve. I would guess he will not play another snap this year. I don't know. I just – that's my best guess. That's my best guess. I'm not optimistic that he will return. I'm not optimistic at all. So, Jeff Gullidge says, Missouri 42, Gamecocks 28. It's not going to be pretty. Jeff Gullidge says, if Wells doesn't play next week, I think you should consider getting gray-shirted and return next year and ball out. Can he get gray-shirted? I don't know. Luke RJ, what's the over-under for Missouri or at Missouri? Why do you think the over will hit? Well, Luke RJ, the over-under is 59.5. Why do I think the over will hit? Have you watched South Carolina play defense? I mean, listen, Brady Cooks in a zone, Luther Burden, Theo Weiss Jr. on the outside at wide receiver is a hell of a 1-2 punch, 1-2 duo. Mizzou can run the football with Nathaniel Pete and Cody Schrader in the backfield. They got a big physical offensive line, a very veteran group. I think Missouri is going to be able to move the football. And I think that South Carolina will as well. I mean, I think if there's been one constant, man, and I know on the road that the offense has been less productive. That's a big question mark in this game. Spencer Rattler has been about half as effective on the road as he has at home. But he'll have to be at his best tomorrow to give South Carolina a chance. And, I just think with Rattler's ability and what Mizzou has and South Carolina's deficiencies defensively, Luke RJ, 59.5, the over there, it feels like a no-brainer in this game. Feels like a no-brainer. A lot of offense. A lot of offense. A lot of offense. Let's see. Anyways, guys, Justin Martin says South Carolina 43, Missouri 39. Okay. I like that. I think either way, guys, it's going to be a really, really fun shootout. A really fun shootout. Let's see. Bruce says, maybe run some reverses of trick plays to stuff we haven't ran before. Yeah, I mean, I wonder what they'll pull out this weekend, man. But it's guys, we can talk offense and all that good stuff. It's going to come down to the defense. I mean, can you get some stops? Can you get some stops? That's what it's going to come down to. Spur your enthusiasm. Let's go win this game, guys. Stay positive. Coach will get this right. 43-38 Gamecocks. Peyton Smith says, I got 38-28 Mizzou. Another abysmal defensive performance. I mean, guys, there's not a lot. I mean, dude, even if the defense has a better game, what does a better game look like for this defense? You know, like what is the best case scenario that we can expect for this defense? Giving up, holding a team to less than 30 points. Like, I mean, I really think like if you hold Mizzou to less than 30 points, you have succeeded. Like that is a victory. I just think the realities of this defense is, man, you lack in personnel. You severely lack in personnel. Holding any team to under 30 points is a win for this group. Like really, truly. And with the offense you have, it should be enough to win. It should be enough to win. Thomas Walker, what are the better odds? Defense holding Mizzou to less than 30 or Harbor catching more than one pass? Great question, Thomas Walker. And shout out to the Walker family, by the way. Appreciate you guys. Much love. Harbor catching more than one pass. If you'd have asked me this, Thomas, last week, I probably would have had a different answer. But now that Harbor's caught one, that long one last week, I would not be surprised to see Harbor get 2 catches. So, and I think there's better odds of it. Spur your enthusiasm. Getting stops on 4th down to be a good start. You are correct. You are correct, my friend. You are very, very correct. Indeed. Shannon Burke, I like the morning show idea for what it's worth. Okay. I do too. I mean, I just, guys, it's something where, I'll make a decision I feel is best, but obviously it's something where I want to run it by you guys. It's just, I just hate the thought of the fact that like we are directly competing with inside the Gamecocks right now. Directly competing, and it's I'm in competition with no one. I stand by that. But when the two shows are running simultaneously, again, there's a lot of folks that are having to pick one or the other. And maybe those folks on inside the Gamecocks, maybe they wouldn't tune in either way. Maybe they would. I don't know, but we don't even have an opportunity to get them in. Right? We don't even have that opportunity. So that's just kind of the way I look at it. Let's see. Ruination, 5 to 7 a.m., 8 to 10 a.m. I mean, Ruination, our dudes over at Crain and Company, man, they go early as heck. They go like 7 to 8:30, I think, or something like that. They go very early, or 7:30 to 9 or something. They go early. So a morning show can be successful. A morning show can be successful. Bruce, Kai hopefully gets his short punts out of his system. I hope so. I really hope so. Dude Raw for show. If defense doesn't show up, anything short of sorcery or witchcraft, our chances aren't very good. Yeah, I mean, what are you going to get out of the defense? That's the question. What are you going to get out of the defense? How can you realistically slow down Luther Burden, Theo Weiss Jr., what Brady Cook has done, the running game? They have balance. There's not a lot of, in my opinion, reasons to be overly optimistic that South Carolina defensively is going to have a good outing. So you got to outscore them. The question is, can you outscore them? Our friend Brad Crawford, by the way, he drops his gambling picks every Friday or every Thursday, something like that. He has added to his card South Carolina plus 7.5. So Brad Crawford at least thinks it's going to be a close game. Steve Austin, 12 a.m. to 2 a.m. Call the show Coast to Coast Gamecocks. Spur your enthusiasm. We will win this game. The doom and gloom crowd was saying the same after Florida last year. I would say this, spur your enthusiasm. The only difference I would say, after the Florida game last year, there was massive change right on the offensive side. What has changed from the Florida game to this game? What has changed? Besides Beamer's health status, what has changed? Do you think there's been new new scheme implemented on the defensive side? Has that changed? Has, what's changed? I just wonder what has changed, because if nothing changes, right? I wonder what it is that's going to click, that has changed, that is going to make an impact for South Carolina. And I just lost my mouse. Ooh. Fumble on the mouse. Anyways, spur your enthusiasm, says Beamer. Probably kicked Clayton in the ass. Is that's the biggest change of the bye week? Spur your enthusiasm. I hope so. I truly do. I hope so. I hope you're right. I hope you are right, my friend. Let's see. Justin Martin, Chris, South Carolina's defense is not good. They've got to get better. That is putting it very, very, very lightly. Jeff Golden says we haven't been consistent in anything all season, but being inconsistent. Jeff, it kind of feels like last year, doesn't it? Kind of feels like last year. So the only consistency with Gamecocks football seems to be the inconsistency. Guys, let me remind you all, tomorrow, the A1 Air Quality Consultants post-game call-in show will take place immediately following South Carolina's game against Mizzou. We'll be right here, Facebook, Twitter, wherever you're checking us out. We'll be all over those platforms going live, and we'll take your calls live on air. Going to be a ton of fun, guys, reacting to everything that takes place in Como. Also, of course, guys, be sure you hit that subscribe button on YouTube, hit that bell icon, so you get notifications when we drop new video content, when we go live as well, for things like the post-game call-in show. Also, what else? Be sure to subscribe to the podcast, iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you get your podcast, and all that good stuff. So, anyways, Luke RJ says, what can you do as a defense if you can't get pressure on the quarterback? Well, maybe you bring extra guys, Luke RJ. You got to get creative. You got to get creative. You got to stunt. You got to twist. You got to do things up front to confuse an offensive line, but it's much easier said than done. Austin Miller, do you think we see a similar situation tomorrow like we seen last year at Tennessee, as in the scheme looks like someone else is calling plays? I mean, Austin, here's the thing about that. How much can the scheme, I think this is why it'd be pointless to fire Clayton White midseason. How much can the scheme change? They're not going to completely reinvent the defense in the middle of the year. Do you think they're going to go from a 4-2-5 to a 4-3 in 1 week? Are they going to go from a 4-2-5 to a 3-4 in 1 week? I just don't know how drastic of a change you can make in such a short amount of time. Great point, Jacob. I will put a poll on social media for the time. I'm just curious to see what people think about it. I'm curious. Spur your enthusiasm. Put Kilgore at nickel. Leave Nick and DQ at safety. That's one suggestion. Yeah, stop putting Nick Emanwari and DQ Smith in positions to fail. Stop putting them in one-on-one coverage. Stop it. Just stop doing it. Just stop doing it. Just stop doing it. Guys, with that being said, like I mentioned, stay tuned to social media content bleeding out of the eyeballs across the board wherever you're tuned in. Again, appreciate your love and support, man. Cannot say thank y'all enough. Truly means the absolute world. And thank y'all so much, too, for rolling with the punches, man. Again, I know there's been a lot of changes and things we've done, adjustments made at TDC and how we operate in content. You guys have been there every step of the way, showing us love, showing support, and I cannot say thank you enough. Guys, with that being said, again, make sure you tune in. The A1 Air Quality Consultants post-game call-in show will air tomorrow night after the game right here, Twitter, Facebook, or X, Facebook, and YouTube. So be sure to check it out. And other than that, guys, again, stay tuned to all the content bleeding out of the eyeballs. Appreciate you guys. Enjoy your weekend. Enjoy the game. I'll leave it with this. Go Cox. Beat Mizzou. And we will talk to you all tomorrow night.